In this example, I'll show you how to use a trigger to update a transaction log. I'm going to start by copying and pasting from the Chapter 7 exercise file. We're going to be using the Scratch database here, and I'm continuing with the tables that were created earlier in the chapter. If you haven't been following along, you can just create these tables from the exercise file and you should be fine. So I'm going to come down here to lesson number 3, logging transactions with a trigger, and we're going to copy everything from here on down to here. First, I'll take a moment to describe it. We're going to recreate the sale table, and in this case, we're just doing this to get rid of that reconciled flag that we used in the last movie. And we're going to keep the customer table, which already has those 3 records in it for Bob and Sally and Fred. And then we're going to create this trigger. Again, we're using the delimiter to change the delimiter because we have multiple statements here in our trigger. So this allows all of this to be submitted to the database engine as one unit. And again, this is a very MySQL specific paradigm. The trigger itself is an after insert trigger. So when you insert a row in widget sale, this trigger will be triggered and this code will be executed. And you notice we insert 3 rows here into the sale table. So between begin and end, we have a block of code with 2 statements in it. The first one sets the last order ID in customer like we did in the first example. And the second one inserts into the widget log to log the event. Now you notice the log table here has a serial, it has a timestamp, so it automatically sets the time according to whatever time it is. And it has a string for the event, a string for the username, a string for the table name, and a table ID for that table that's named. So widget sale will get that new ID from the sale row that's being inserted into the sale table. So it's very simple code here. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste. And we select everything from sale, customer, and log there at the end. So I'm going to paste this into the SID here, and we'll go ahead and execute it. So we have these tables in this order, sale, customer, and log. So here's the sale, and we just created these 3 sale rows in here. And there's the customer. You see the last order ID has been updated with those sales. And here's our log table. So we have the stamp, the event, it was an insert, the username trigger, and the sale table and the table ID. So we inserted 3 rows, row 1, 2, and 3 from the sale table. And you can link back to those in the sale table and see exactly what they are. So very simple technique for updating a log whenever a row is inserted into a table. You can use triggers for many purposes. Here I've shown you how to update 2 tables from one trigger, including a new row in a transaction log table and updating this customer table with the last order ID. And so just to finish off this lesson, I'm going to drop all of our triggers and tables. In actuality, the only one of these triggers that still exists is the widget log, because every time you drop a table, the triggers associated with that table are automatically dropped. But just so that you can see how it's done, you can drop triggers with the drop trigger statement. And just like you drop tables with the drop table statement, I'm going to copy and paste all of that into our SQL box here and execute it so that all of that is actually cleaned up for the rest of the course. It's also worth noting that in other systems where they don't automatically drop a trigger, you can get an error if you drop a table before you drop the associated triggers. So I always drop the triggers first before I drop the associated tables.